So I'm mad at Nintendo again. I I'm always mad at Nintendo for doing something.
I've kind of given up on it. I gave up on Nintendo like a decade ago.
I I don't want to. Nintendo still makes great games. But I feel like they're missing the point. So the Wii U has done terrible sales. Everybody knows that. They've sold some weirdly ungodly number of systems. It's like 500,000 or something. But rather than just be smart and put out a system that's what publishers want, they've started to do DLC, which you know me, I am almost always against in some form or another.
Because you don't want to keep paying for a game you've already paid for?
I don't want to keep paying for a game I've already paid for, and I feel like it's deep down it's disrespectful to the consumer. I'm sure I'm not allowed to be upset about that because I don't have to pay for it. But
Like your typical DLC, like extended missions and stuff, or
so
I'm really not up on Nintendo.
No, that's fine. What I'm specifically ranting about at the moment is Mario Kart 8.
Okay.
So
there's a what's the DLC for this? I saw something about this not too long ago.
There's three things. Two of them I'm fine with. One of them I have a real issue with.
Okay, what are they?
There's two new track packs coming out.
Okay.
There's some new racers. There's some new tracks.
Racers is in new characters or new cars?
New characters.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. If I'm content with my Mario Kart experience, I felt like I got a full $60 worth of entertainment out of Mario Kart. So if they would like another $5 to $10 for a couple extra things, that's totally my prerogative to buy that or not. However, there's a third DLC for Mario Kart, and it's free. And you would think that I wouldn't get upset about a free DLC.
I would think. Because that's how you want your DLC to be.
This is soul-crushingly awful. In Mario Kart 8, there are now Mercedes-Benz carts. That is
wrong.
Wrong.
That's fundamentally wrong.
Like, Nintendo has... I understand Nintendo's having sales issues. But the only thing to me that drives me to a Nintendo game now over just about anything else is that purity of brand.
It's innocent.
Yes. Like, you know what? I have a Wii U. I don't play it that often. But when Mario Kart 8 comes out, I'm buying that game. When the new Legend of Zelda comes out, I'm buying that game. When the new Donkey Kong comes out, might buy that game. So, yes, I don't spend a lot of money on my Wii U, but when they put out a quality product, Super Smash Bros. Coming out, I'm buying that game. I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy that because to me, Nintendo represents a pure gaming experience. It is the only thing that keeps me going back to their series, back to their product. But with this, they're taking Mario and putting Mercedes in it. It's like I feel betrayed by them.
Gratuitous.
Yeah. And Nintendo doesn't seem to understand. So now they're like, okay, well, we're doing DLC now. They're doing DLC for the new Hyrule Warriors coming out.
The new what?
Hyrule Warriors. It's a Dynasty Warriors Zelda crossover. It looks interesting. I don't know. I'm not a big Dynasty Warriors fan.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Which is funny. You can continue with your point. You know, I'll save that for later.
Okay. So Nintendo's like doing this foray into DLC, which is something. It's like a shaky ground. Some do it great. Borderlands does it awesome. League of Legends does pay to play awesome. You know, you don't have to spend I have played. I looked it up the other day. 278 hours of League of Legends. I have spent $10.
Good for you.
Yeah, and that's only because I wanted a skin. Like there was this cool skin coming down. I really wanted it. I never had to pay a dime. Almost 300 hours, never had to pay a dime. Some do it awful. The notorious one is Oblivion, where it was $2 for a horse skin. So I have no fundamental problem with DLC as long as it doesn't seem like you're scamming somebody. And even though this is free, this Mercedes thing is just scamming me. And then
at least it's free.
At least it's free.
Then it's it's like blatant advertising as opposed to blatant advertising, and it could be there would be a crap ton of people that would buy that for $1.
Yeah. Yeah, be like, ooh, more carts, Mario Kart. Wonderful.
Yeah, ooh, a car, a real car.
A real car. I want to drive a Mercedes.
Now, of
I
course,
named my daughter Mercedes.
Now, of course, if it was a Bentley,
Yo,
I'd be
damn about that.
100% on board with that. I'd be like, I know I can't pay. Can I pay?
Is there any way I can slip a couple dollars under your door, Nintendo?
Like, is there an address I can send a check to? Do you accept money orders?
The issue at hand, deep down, is that I'm afraid Nintendo is not understanding their problem.
And you're afraid they're going to become filthy sellouts?
A little bit. The Nintendo problem is that outside of Nintendo games, there is no reason to buy a Nintendo system. They are not selling Wii U's because it's not an interesting system. They're not selling Wii U's because there is nothing else to play on it. When did Mario Kart come out? August?
Mm-hmm.
I have not even looked to see if there's anything else on the Wii U worth playing. Where I don't like these series, but where are the Call of Duties? Where are the Maddens? Where is Borderlands? Where's all this stuff?
Adult content.
Where is the adult content? The issue for Nintendo is that their system is a piece of crap.
So I am not a huge Nintendo person anymore, but I know how crazy the original Wii sold. Like, everybody bought one. I came real close to buying one, largely because of, like, the crazy hype around it. Everybody's like, oh, I gotta get a Wii.
Right.
Everybody got one. Nobody played it. It was a stupid white thing that sat there, and nobody played it. And I'm kind of glad that they're getting bit in the ass with the Wii U now that you're telling me this, because I feel like they kind of deserve it for having that stupid system previously that nobody played.
I guess they do deserve it a little bit. There was, when the Wii U, before it was getting announced, there was a rumor that the new Nintendo system was going to be called Nintendo.
That would have been so cool.
Instead of doing something really cool like that, because no system was ever named the Nintendo, everybody assumes it was, but it wasn't, they did the exact opposite. They named it the Wii U. And the issue that created is that your general consumer, you're only going to make kids games, that's fine. But what you have to understand is that the people who buy those games are moms and dads and grandparents.
Not kids.
That don't have a real understanding of video games. I worked at a retail store that sold Wii U's. I can't tell you how many times I had to explain that the Wii U was not a Wii. Nobody understood that.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't understand what it was. When, like, I could be the dumbest person on earth for thinking this. When I first heard about the Wii U, I thought it was for college classes that you could get through your Wii. Like, because they have, like, the Apple University thing, I think, where you can get, like, college, like, course lectures through, like, the iTunes store. I thought it was that. I thought it was, like, the Apple version of that for, like, kids' education. And I realized how dumb that is now.
It's not that dumb.
Like, what is that name? I mean, like, I was like, Wii U? That name is stupid.
Well, here...
There could be a logic to it. It's still a stupid name.
I could be making this up. I believe that the etymology of that was the Wii was supposed to be played in groups. So it is, we are playing.
No, I got that. You've explained this before.
I don't know if I have.
You have. To me, anyway.
Okay.
Have. So you can keep going.
But the big backlash was that there was no third-party support for the Wii. All it was Nintendo games and shovelware.
Shovelware?
Yeah. You know, just like junk games.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Cooking Mama was a good game. But the Carnival Games 2, that's like shovelware. You know, bargain bin stuff. Like stuff that comes brand new for $20.
Yeah.
So the idea was that the Wii U was a Wii in HD, but the experience was going to be more about you. One person gets the tablet. That person is you feel special. The Wii U feels special. But the problem is
the us me. That's what they should have called it.
So the issue though is that they still never got that third party support that they promised with the Wii U. They were like, look, we finally have an HD thing. People can make Call of Duty for this. How
Developers.
great is that? It's like, look, guys, you wanted an HD thing. You didn't want to have to make a completely separate piece of shit game for our Wii. We're just like everybody else now. But the problem is, they're not like anybody else now. The Wii U came out 6 months later, PS4, Xbox One. So now, once again, developers are in the exact same position. They have to make a completely separate piece of shit game for the Wii U, and since Nintendo is such hard asses about it, they force them to make tablet controls. So Nintendo is basically saying, hey, guys, why don't you come and make a game for our system? Bring Call of Duty. People love that shit. Oh, about that. You're going to have to tone down the specs a little bit. And you're going to have to spend extra money to use this crap controller that we have. And we're Nintendo, so you have to pay us extra rights. Nobody does that. EA doesn't make games for the Wii U. EA is the biggest gaming company that is not Sony or Microsoft. They might even be bigger, honestly, like game producers.
Yeah.
Activision doesn't make games for the Wii U. So the solution for Nintendo is not Mercedes-Benz and Mario Kart 8. The solution is we need to be friendly to third-party developers. And I'm afraid that they're going to make a little bit of coin with these DLC things, and they'll be like, oh my god, that's it. That's what it is, you know? People want to see Slash from Guns N' Roses and Mario Kart 8. Slash is going to pay us. Slash Card 8, $19.99. It's going to be awful. It's going to be the worst. And I'm really scared for Nintendo.
The problem is dumb people that'll still buy it because it's Slash.
Everybody loves Slash. Coming this summer.
It sounds like ultimately your thesis is that Nintendo does not understand their place in a new world order of the current video game environment.
Yeah.
Like, it left them behind, and they don't realize it, and they still think they're king.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I thought they would have learned this with the Nintendo 64 because they had the same issue. They were stubborn jerks by choosing a cartridge. That's how they lost Final Fantasy, and they lost all these other franchises to the PlayStation. Nobody could afford to make cart-based games for the Nintendo 64 when CDs were so much cheaper. I guess they didn't learn their lesson. They had so much success with the regular Wii that they are just like living in this fairy tale world now where they have no money.
And I know this has been said many times before, but so if their plan was to get third-party stuff onto their platform and they finally realized that that's what they need to do, then good for them for finally realizing that. Their execution sounds like it's garbage from what you're telling me, but at least they've realized they can't solely rely on that childlike, innocent, nostalgia game, which is the meat of their offerings. You know, you can only make so many Mario and Zelda and Donkey Kong, and you know their main and Metroid. You know, they've got some core stuff, but that's not going to sustain them forever. That's just not enough. That's just not enough games. That's not enough properties.
And another core issue is that they aren't developing new stuff. And we touched on this a while ago. You know, after E3, Nintendo announced one new game. That's not enough. If only Nintendo is going to produce Nintendo games, then they need to make more of them, and they need to mine their own assets. There's a ton of stuff. Ice Climbers, that's a Nintendo game. Where's an Ice Climbers game? Kid Icarus, it's a Nintendo game. Where's Kid Icarus? Metroid,
Seriously.
where's our Metroid game? Earthbound, where's our Earthbound game?
You know what I want? I want a God of War version of Kid Icarus. That's what I want. I want like realistic, like I want that.
That could be fun.
That would be fun.
I didn't play the 3DS game. A lot of people had problems with it, like it has super weird controls or something. You have to basically rest it on a stand and then use your stylus.
That's dumb.
That's dumb. But where are all those games? Super Smash Bros. Is coming out in a couple weeks. There is a roster of like 55 characters or something. It's an insane amount. And a lot of those are from Mario games. A lot of those, you know, whatever. There are Super Fire Emblem. Make a Wii U Fire Emblem game. People would clamor for a Nintendo-made RPG on the Wii U. Doesn't exist.
When was the last Star Fox that came out?
It was Star Fox for the GameCube. They are rumored to be making a new Star Fox. I don't think it was officially announced, but Miyamoto, when he was, this is so stupid, typical Nintendo because they're idiots. In his E3 Direct, there was a video of like an R-wing flying around behind him, which with like very obvious HD graphics. So I believe they're definitely making a Star Fox. I don't know if it's confirmed yet.
To me, at this point, Star Fox is like a pivotal property that they don't use. Like that should be like a launch title.
Yeah.
Star Fox. It's an awesome flyer. Everybody knows it. It's got recognition. Use it.
And
it's different. It's like so far removed from Mario and Zelda and the old school stuff. Use it. It's different, but it's newer.
And at our core level, where's our Mario game? They came out with Super Mario World, 3D World, or whatever it is, but to me that struck me as like a side project or something. And I know that game's supposed to be wonderful. Like, I have no experience with it. It could be a full-fledged Mario game, but if it is, they certainly didn't pimp it out as one.
I feel like they've made, well, this is super turning into a Nintendo podcast, but like they had like, with Mario, they had leaps and bounds with the development of that series. You had, Mario 1 and Mario 2, which is totally weird and not really a Mario game, but it is now. Mario 3, and it's like each game is like totally different. Super Mario World, awesome game. They keep advancing the series. Mario 64, that's insane. Love that game. I mean, it's probably ridiculous to play it now, but at the time, I was completely engrossed by it. And then, what huge advancements you have in that series after that? New Super Mario Brothers?
Galaxy was interesting.
All right, I'll give you Galaxy.
New Super Mario Brothers was actually kind of lame.
I agree. It's fun in a nostalgia sense, but as an advancement of that series, it does nothing.
Right, and like the level design, it seems like a knockoff almost.
More of the same, with some funny features like giant Mario on the screen kicking ass. Like that's funny.
Yeah,
but
doesn't do much for me. I don't know. I just feel like
they're not. Nintendo is Michael Jackson.
Okay, hit me with this one.
Because they aren't maturing as they get older. They are stuck in their own past, and it's not working for them. And they're not taking advantage of what they have and reinvigorating what they have and being creative and thoughtful and coming up with creative ways to use their properties. They have a lot of recognizable properties. Everybody knows who Mario is. Everybody knows Zelda. Everybody knows Metroid. I feel like the Metroid stuff is just like, who cares?
Which is so sad.
At this point, because like that's like the original Metroid is like epic, But I hear Metroid games coming out, boring sci-fi shooter, over the top,
I bought Other M, and they outsourced it to Team Ninja. Was it Team Ninja? Crap, I think it's the people who made Ninja Gaiden. I don't know if it's Team Ninja or not. And it was pretty awful because of the Wii U things. The problem with Other M was that if you remember the Wiimote, like you could turn it sideways and use it as a regular controller, or you could turn it frontwards and use it as a Wiimote and shoot at the screen or whatever.
I hate the Wiimote.
They combined the two, so you'd be playing sideways, and then stuff would jump out at you, and you'd have to like quick fiddle around with your controller and try to like shoot it. It was awful. They just need to make a side-scrolling Metroid. Look at these Castlevania games that have taken the Metroid place. I mean, Symphony of the Night is 20 years ago at this point, but all of those leading up to it, Portrait of Ruin, Harmony of Despair, like all that stuff, they're just new Metroids. People are buying these games. Just make a Metroid. It's not difficult.
Yeah. The original Metroid, the one for the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, I love those.
Don't sell your soul to Mercedes-Benz. Make a Metroid, and I will pay you $1 billion. That's what should be the issue here. They want money. Don't sully your brand. The only thing you have going for you. Just improve the brand.
Also, since we're talking about Metroid, I find it really crass how much they have used the fact that Samus is a female. Because that's really not what made Metroid originally. Everybody thought it was kind of cool at the end when she's in her bathing suit or whatever it was, or underwear, or whatever. Like, it's funny because it's ridiculous on an NES. But, like, that's not what made Metroid Metroid. But now it's like everywhere you go, it's like, oh yeah, she's in a skin-tight, spacesuit. I mean, come on, that's
right. Like Zero Suit Samus.
Yeah,
like,
that's
come on.
That's fucking dumb. That's stupid.
It's pandering.
It is.
And look, I look at pictures of hot chicks all the time. Obviously it appeals to dudes, but that's not. Samus is almost held up as like a pinnacle of, equality, but she's not. It's just like an exploit. It's like, hey, look, hey everybody, we got a hot chick over here. Why don't you take a look? I agree with you. I think it's upsetting.
I guess, and I know there's been tons of people that have said this before. As I have matured as a person, I feel that Nintendo has not matured with me. And I feel like they said, this is our thing. We're going to do this. And then I grew up and they didn't. And now it's like, well, where are you? Like, I want to buy your stuff, but you don't appeal to me anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, do they just want the dollars from the kids? Is that all they're interested in? It's like,
obviously not, because the Wii U, like, they did that whole, it appeals to everybody. Every grandma with the original Wii, they tried to appeal to grandparents. They tried to appeal to adults and kids and all that stuff.
But they didn't. They tried to appeal to, like, adults who don't play video games. That's why they had, like, Wii Sports and Wii Fitness or whatever it was. We do the exercise. But, like, gamers who grew up with Nintendo, where are, like, I mean, I had Nintendo and Super Nintendo. Those were my systems growing up. N64. Like, I was a Nintendo kid. I wouldn't even remotely think to buy Nintendo stuff now. So clearly they have made a misstep.
Yeah.
Because they had my loyalty and then lost it. They lost it after, for me particularly, they lost it after the N64. When the GameCube came out, I didn't go that route. I gave up on them.
It always amazes me when I'm just a guy, I have a crap degree in nothing important. I can look at Nintendo and relatively easily solve a lot of their issues. I don't understand how those people can't see it. It happens like when I watch a football game sometimes too. It's like, why do they keep doing this? How can they not see what the issue is here? I'm nobody. All I do is watch football on my television, and I know there's more going on than what I see, but sometimes a solution is just there.
Or it's like, how could the original prequel, like the Star Wars prequels, how could they be so bad? It's
right.
like you shake your head and just out of disbelief. How can these be so bad?
It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
How did Jar Jar Binks stepping in poop happen in the Star Wars?
How many yes men do you need to surround yourself with for these total debacles to happen?
It's astounding sometimes.
It is. Do you want to move on?
Yeah, we should probably talk about something cooperative.
Okay. We were cooperative in our dislike of
That's
Nintendo
true.
today.
Podcast theme music go?
Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Player 2 Press Start. That was a huge intro. I was not expecting that. I was like, Dan, I want to talk about Nintendo for a second. He's like, all right, go for it.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a 5-minute intro.
No.
We're like 30 minutes in, aren't we?
My rants cannot be contained by a normal intro.
How far in are we?
We are at minute 24.
All right, that's a big intro.
That was a big intro.
Hefty.
I am killagreg. You can find me at killagreg17 on the Twitter.
I am Dan. You can find me at the Polygon1 on Twitter.
You can find us at Player2, PLAYRTWO, or player2pressstart.com. Our website's awesome. People should visit it more.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's fine. I'm just proud of the fact that we have it. I'm a real boy now. This week, the long-promised discussion about Left 4 Dead 2. We've been pimping this for over a month now.
Have we?
Yeah, 3 podcasts we've been talking about it, I believe.
I didn't realize there was that many.
Yeah, so In case we've been busy. How was your vacation, Dan?
It was good. Went to Rhode Island. Had a nice time. Went to the beach. Went to Block Island. That's a cool place. Not as cool as Martha's Vineyard, from what I hear, but
Oh, you didn't get to Martha's Vineyard then?
that's way out. That's farther.
That's for really white people. You're only a little bit white.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a good time, but that ended up requiring a Halo retrospective episode. So hope y'all enjoyed that one. So today we are talking about Left 4 Dead 2, and Left 4 Dead was Left 4 Dead 2 is the obviously sequel to Left 4 Dead. Came out shortly after the first one. Was it 1 year? Was it less than a year?
I think it was 11 months. We should talk about the controversy a little bit.
Well, I just want to give a real brief overview. Developed by Valve and Turtle Rock Studios, published by Valve. It was available for Windows, Xbox 360, OS X, and Linux. And it came out November 17th, 2009.
Left 4 Dead is a game that is designed to be played multiplayer. There are 4 characters. It's supposed to be played with 4 people. Most gameplay modes fall into 2 categories. There is single player and competitive multiplayer. The game proper consists of 5 campaigns, which all generally consist of 5 sort of acts.
Not to be a stickler, but I feel like we should explain that a little bit differently. There's player versus environment, which is the campaign mode, and then there's player versus player, which is like the multiplayer online versus each other mode. Just to make that a little more clear.
So you always have teammates. It is a game designed from its core to be played with other people, because you rely on them for health and help and stuff like that. There's a lot of special zombies that can incapacitate you, and without the help of a teammate, you'll just die.
We should also say, if you're playing the campaign, you can play it by yourself, and the other 3 characters in your team will be CPU controlled, but obviously they're probably not going to be as intelligent necessarily as real people who have some experience with the game.
They're tremendous shots and dumb as shit. That's how it works. They'll snipe a special infected from across the map with a shotgun, but you'll be dying next to them, and they'll just ignore you.
Yeah.
So it's broken up 5 campaigns, 5 acts in each campaign. You start at 1, and you essentially run through a gauntlet of zombies and get to a safe house. Then you can restock, get new guns, get a health pack, run to the next safe house. And then at the end, there's what's called a finale, where you have some sort of objective. My favorite map, the objective at the end is you have to alert a helicopter that's been flying around, so you start a rock concert, and the fireworks and stuff from the rock concert attract the helicopter over to you.
It also attracts all the zombies in the world.
Exactly, all the zombies in the world. So that's the general how the gist of the game goes.
Do you want to talk about the controversy about the release?
Yeah. So Left 4 Dead 2 came out, looks like 10 months, give or take a little bit of time, after Left 4 Dead 1. And people were outraged by that.
Did they feel real burned?
Yeah, they felt really burned.
And I assume both these games were this was full price when it came out. It was like a $60 game.
It was a $60 game, yeah.
That's much.
A lot of people were basically just saying that support the old game. Don't
give up and make a new one.
Don't make a new game. And I remember also being outraged at the time. Now, to me, Left 4 Dead 2 is such a superior product than Left 4 Dead 1 that I can't, in hindsight, I was like, wow, what was I worked up about? But you have to remember that Valve, deep down, is a PC company, or, a PC game maker. So I feel like the Valve community is outraged because PC games last forever. People still play competitive StarCraft and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like Counter-Strike, the original Counter-Strike.
World of Warcraft.
Still sees competitive play. So people just didn't, they were like, why would you do this to us? But I would just like to get it out of the way that if you played Left 4 Dead 1 and you were like, oh, Left 4 Dead 2 is just an expansion or something, it's not. Left 4 Dead 2 is vastly superior in every way.
I haven't played the first one, but I get the distinct impression this is a fully realized game, not a expansion they tried to pawn off as a full game.
For sure. So that was the controversy at the time. I think we're going to do this episode a little bit different than normal episodes. It should be stated that this is one of my favorite games of all time.
And you've been playing it since it came out?
Yeah, I got it the day it came out. And I've played it an ungodly amount. I would say to the point where it's probably my top 5 most played games of all time. That counts the, like I said, 300 hours of League of Legends I've played. The probably 500 hours of SOCOM 2 I've played, the 400 hours of Battlefield I've played. So I have invested a lot of time into this. Dan has just bought it. So
yeah, we played. I would say we played it together for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I would say your investment into maybe 10 hours.
Yeah,
if that.
Yeah.
Because of that, there is a big disconnect between my opinion and Dan's opinion. So I think the best structure for this would probably be for Dan to sort of express his
concerns.
Not concerns, but experience, mostly concerns. For Dan to express his experience with the game, and then I will bring my point of view to it.
Yeah, we'll do this as a point counterpoint.
Sort of.
So do you want me to jump into it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So we should say that this portion of the discussion is largely going to be based on the campaign portion of the game. We did not end up getting to the multiplayer component.
The competitive multiplayer. We played all of these with... Did we play them all with a full party? We played most of them with a full party of 4. A little bit we played with just the 2 of us.
Yep. So this is related to the campaign portion, not the competitive portion. Which, I mean, I'm still happy to go back and try at some point, and I wish we had gotten to it for this episode. But anyway, jumping into it. So some of these are going to be kind of nitpicky. Some of these I think are critical to the game's flaws, in my opinion. But so we'll start off with the weapons. So you don't. I guess there's enough variety in weapon types to fit the game. Like it's fine. It doesn't need to be like Battlefield where you have like 100 different guns. That's you don't need that. But the guns, they don't feel real to me because there's no iron sight zooming, and I constantly feel like I'm shooting from the hip. And I've been trained by so many shooters now that is not the best way to shoot a gun. And I end up feeling kind of goofy doing it. And that's how I feel like the whole time I keep wanting to press to get the iron sights from playing like Battlefield and other stuff. And I'm like, ah.
How does that contrast to Halo, though? Because Halo also doesn't have iron sights except for a few key guns, just like Left 4 Dead. The guns that it would be appropriate for them to have an iron sight have or a scope have it, and then otherwise it doesn't. The guns don't suffer from accuracy. It's just you would prefer to look down the sights when you're shooting.
Well, I guess it also plays into another point I have, where the zombies are too easy to kill, in that the game doesn't focus on headshots being critical to their destruction, and it's a zombie. It should be. And therefore, I want to be accurate with my shot. I feel like that's important, and the fact that the game doesn't care, that feels like a disconnect to me for what is the core of a zombie game. Headshots. Go for the head. That's what you're supposed to do. And you don't need to.
There is a realism mode in this game, which I've played very little of. But in it, bullet placement matters. Headshots will put a zombie down much quicker. Body shots take a lot more bullets. The reason I never played it is because I thought it was only on extreme difficulty. I thought it was only like the hardest difficulty, and then you could also complement that with the realism mode.
Okay.
But reading today, doing some research onto this, apparently you can play like easy with realism on.
See, I would love that with it on, because if I shoot a zombie in the chest, that shouldn't do anything unless I'm like laying into him with like a full auto and I just rip him apart. But like if I shoot him in the leg, I want him to trip. If I shoot him in the head, I want him to be dead.
Right.
If I shoot him in the arm, that's meaningless. You know, like I want where I'm shooting to matter in the sense of the zombie anatomy.
I feel like I need to take some blame for your experience. Um, as I've said, I've played this game a lot, and I started Dan off on an easier difficulty because, in my opinion, the game can get overwhelming on higher difficulties to the point of making it not fun. So I wanted Dan to like this game really bad, so I tried to make it so like, oh yeah, well zombies ain't shit. You know, you just run around and shoot some zombies and have a good time. Because I know you, like I know your gaming pedigree is one with the Game Genie on. So to me, in my brain, I was like, you know what? If this game is really challenging, Dan's going to hate it right off the bat. So let's put it on easy. Let's let him ease into it, and we'll go from there. So I feel like maybe I should have just started on a harder difficulty, and it would have been difficult, and you might not have had a great time, but I think you would have at least felt the challenge that was necessary to enjoy the game.
I don't know. Without having done it, it's hard to say.
And then when we finally did put it on a harder difficulty, we picked the hardest and worst map. So it was just an unfun experience for everybody.
Is that the one in the bayou?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is not a good map. Regarding your Halo point, I don't necessarily have a good response for that. All I could say is that the guy's a super soldier, maybe, and doesn't need to look down the sights. That's the best justification I can come with. But I like being able to switch my accuracy between shooting from the hip and shooting down in iron sights. If a game doesn't have it, I want it to.
That's fine.
So
you can just say it feels different, and that's a viable opinion. I was just curious if you really felt the difference between the two.
So my next point, are we good with that one? Shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah. Okay. So why don't you start talking about our list? Okay. End part where you need to move.
So the next point on my list is we had one time when we were playing. There were 4 of us, 2 very experienced players, and then 2 very inexperienced players, and one of those inexperienced was very new to playing on the 360 in general. So she was very new to kind of the experience. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah. She had played about as much as you, if maybe less.
But didn't have that first-person shooter background.
Oh yeah, no, none at all, really.
So the issue we ran into is that I really enjoyed using the sword in this game. I liked the melee weapons, particularly the sword. I felt like it was relatively productive as a weapon, and I kind of liked getting in close because the zombies really weren't that threatening, especially on easy. On easy, this game is ridiculous. And it was specific. The problem was specific to the melee weapons because I was using them a lot, but everybody else wasn't. Everybody else was using their guns, and this game, love it or hate it, has team damage. So I was in the way, and we were playing on what, normal? There's easy. What are the difficulty levels? Easy,
normal, hard, and extreme. I believe are what they are.
So normal is hard. That's what we were playing on, wasn't it?
We never went above normal.
Never?
Never.
Yeah, no. I mean, normal is a hard difficulty.
Oh,
compared to easy. Like,
well, yeah, compared to yes.
My unintelligible point being, it ramps up quickly in difficulty.
Yes.
So we were playing, and I was getting in the way, and we had a big swarm coming at us, and I distinctly remember you guys being like, Dan, you've got to get your guns out. You can't keep using your melee weapons. And it was becoming a real problem. It had not been too much of an issue before, but this time it really became a problem. And it's a legit complaint, and I was being selfish in my gameplay style, and I wasn't being a team player. In the sense that I got annoyed at that. That wasn't why I rage quit that time, by the way. But I wasn't being cognizant of my teammates' needs, and this is a game where that is vital.
Crucial.
However, I loved using the melee weapons, so there was a real difficult choice there, because it's like, when are you really only supposed to bring them out when you're overwhelmed?
Yeah, so this isn't totally explained, really. and I don't know how they would explain it. Maybe I don't want to take the blame for not understanding this. There were no melee weapons in Left 4 Dead 1. All there were pistols and your main weapons. You could still smack zombies away, but there was no like sword, there was no cricket bat, nothing like that. The melee weapons were new to Left 4 Dead 2, and they take the place of your pistol. So you have a main weapon, an assault rifle, sniper rifle, whatever, and then you have your pistol or a melee weapon. I think because there was no melee weapon in Left 4 Dead 1, you were taught by that game that your secondary weapon is a last-ditch effort. It's like if you are out of bullets, at least you have that pistol, or if you don't have time to reload, you have the pistol. So it's just like your
It's a gunplay game.
yeah, it's like your oh crap last moment thing. Melee weapons are supposed to play the same role, but they give you a different option basically.
Okay.
So, when me and our friend Ty were playing, we played it so much. To us, melee weapons are
A last-ditch effort.
It's a last-ditch effort. We were already trained in the first game that melee weapons are not something you use all the time. You just do it sometimes when you have to use it. That is not explained to a new player in any way. In fact, the first thing they do is give you a melee weapon. They don't even give you a gun.
Well, also, in addition to that, this is a survival game, and they are relatively generous with resources, but I was often trying to conserve ammo and not just going, and I didn't need to, but that was my mindset. This is a survival game. I don't want to waste ammo. So why use a bullet when I can swing a sword? And if there's a swarm, maybe that's another story, and you need to be more proactive in keeping them at a distance and taking them out. But in most cases, you run up, there's like a guy standing in a corner. Just cut him.
Right.
There's no need to bring a gun out and waste a shot.
So, while yes, you shouldn't have been so gung-ho to use the melee weapons, I don't know if they accurately told you that you shouldn't have been using it so aggressively.
Like, I felt like the pistol was a support weapon. I didn't feel like the melee weapons were. Like,
Right.
I felt like it was like an alternative to shooting, not a backup. So, I guess it is what it is. I guess if you had a team of 4 people all using melee weapons, it probably would work out pretty well because you wouldn't be shooting each other.
That's true. I just don't think they're effective enough. And when the special infected come through,
Yeah, that's another story. I
Yeah.
use my gun a lot. It's just sometimes I would sort of get into sword mode and I would just sort of zone out.
right?
And that doesn't always work. Okay, next point. I'll make reference to this more than once, but there's kind of what I consider to be the zombie canon, and those are the sort of established guidelines of what zombies are, how they react, and the sort of similarities between all of these kind of larger properties that are out there, whether it's Dawn of the Dead or The Walking Dead or the book World War Z or whatever it is. There's similarities between everything. Oftentimes the source of the zombie apocalypse is not explained. That's something that's common. And oftentimes they're slow, but then when they sort of get into a frenzy, they're faster. Like those just established things that are common throughout all of these. One thing that's important, and it's been kind of, for anybody that's a zombie fan, it's sort of been beaten into you, especially like with the Zombie Survival Guide book, and in general, don't use your gun unless you have to, because they make a lot of noise. Noise attracts zombies. This game is all about using your gun, shooting all over the place, and ultimately making a crap ton of noise. And I feel like there's zero attention played to a stealthy gameplay style, because swarms of zombies are going to come randomly, and it really doesn't matter how loud you are. I feel like that's a misstep. I feel like that sort of doesn't honor the canon the way it should. It should be like if I shoot my gun, I felt like the reaction of the zombies was never like. Yeah, they're sort of attracted to you, and when you get closer, obviously, like that makes a difference, but I never felt like that sort of sound issue was a real big thing one way or the other because the game was so hectic.
I don't totally disagree with that point. While stealth might have been an interesting aspect of the game, I don't think it needed it. And at the end of the day, I would rather have a fun game experience than be concerned that this doesn't totally fit with general zombie practices. To me, this game would be, if every gunshot set off a horde, this game would be insufferable. And I don't really want a stealth game. I don't think a stealth game would work well with 4 players. I think that's an important aspect we should talk about. It is virtually impossible to get 4 people to do something together. And there are moments in this game where there's a special infected called a witch. In the first game, she only sat there. In this one, she moves around during the daylight, and she sits there at nighttime, I believe. Basically, if you alert a witch, she will automatically down you. If you get down 3 times, you're dead forever. If you get downed and the zombies do enough damage to you while you're down, you're dead forever. An instant down is a terrible thing to happen. The witch is set off by noise, lights, touching her.
If you look at her, right?
Yeah, if you look at her. If you get close and look at her, she'll go off. She'll instant down you. It's the worst.
I mean, you can kill her, but it's hard.
You can kill her. There's one way to kill her. You can sneak up behind her and one-shot her with only the best shotgun. If you have a crappy shotgun, it doesn't work. I cannot tell you the percentage of times where all 4 teammates actually get by a witch without setting her off.
Yeah, because somebody's not paying attention.
It's astronomically low. I would say 10% of the time you try to sneak past a witch, all 4 of you, 90% of the time you set the witch off. That's the point I'm getting at here. So I feel like a stealth multiplayer game would be virtually impossible.
I accept your point. However, oftentimes the reason that somebody sets her off, it's because you were not being stealthy in the first place. So it's you spend 99.9% of the zombies you run into are regular zombies. You see a zombie, you shoot it. That's the game mechanic. You see it, you shoot it. There's no reason not to shoot it. So she, especially when she's walking around, not so much when she's shitting. When she's sitting, but when she's walking, she looks mostly like if you look quick, she looks like a regular zombie. You shoot, oh crap, I just triggered her. Now she's running around, she's trying to get me. And that's because the game is so focused on shooting everything, which is not what a survival game is necessarily supposed to be about.
Would this be a good time to talk about Special Infected in general and maybe talk about their audio clues? Or should we talk about that later? Because it's something I really enjoy.
You can talk about it now if you want.
All right. So, in Left 4 Dead, there are the regular zombie horde, and then there are also 8 types of Special Infected. The Special Infected are sort of super zombies, and they all have a unique property. The Smoker has a long tongue that can wrap around you and incapacitate somebody. The Boomer is this big, gross, bubbly dude who will walk up and explode next to you, covering you in boomer bile, and then the horde will attack you. There's the Spitter. She spits, slimy goo. A Jockey, which is this gross little old dude who will hop on your back and ride you around. The Hunter, which will pounce on you. There's another one. Oh, and the Charger. And the Charger is super strong, and he'll grab you and slam you into the ground repeatedly until your teammates get you off of him. And then there are 2 super type Special Infected, which is the Witch, which we just talked about, and then a Tank. And the Tank is insanely strong, 1 million hit points. He can throw cars at you. He can throw dumpsters at you. He can hit you and knock you down. He can throw big piles of rocks at you. So that's really the meat of this game. So far, Dan and we have just talked about, the horde and how that affects gameplay. But the real difficulty of the game, the horde is really just there to occupy you in between encounters with Special Infected. So something I really appreciate about Left 4 Dead is the audio in the game. And we'll talk about it a little bit. Me and my friends, we sort of found a way to cheat the audio so that it would give us a heads up. But each one of the special infected has a unique audio clue, so that you have an idea of what's around. And the thing about the witch is that she has like her own unique music, so that even before you see her, if people are paying attention, they'll be like, "Oh, I hear a witch. I know a witch is around." And some of them have very interesting clues. You know, like they each have their own musical note progression. You know, the boomer is the same, like do 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 do. Every time you hear that, you know there's a boomer around.
I guess it seems so unrealistic to me. I guess I
Yeah,
want a more realistic
care
game.
about the realism of this game.
This is like every criticism. I want a more realistic game. You say you don't care about realism.
Yeah, but that it's a video game. Who wants to play a realistic video game? That seems ludicrous to me. I want to feel rad. Or in this game, I want to feel like I'm overcoming this horde or something.
But I mean, Halo is not realistic. But I mean, when I'm playing it, I don't feel goofy. Like you don't have music cues to know that there's like an enemy around.
Sure you do. The music ramps up in Halo when stuff is getting
but
real.
That's environmental music. That's not the same. Exactly.
No, that's way wrong. There's an orchestral score that will trigger in Halo when you encounter enemies.
Yeah, but it's not like somebody's hiding around a corner that's going to F you up. Like, the music doesn't tell you there's an enemy up ahead. Like it does with these. These are a cue. When you're close to one, you hit the cue.
But to me, that says that I like that aspect of the game. I like that there is a higher context going on. I think it's brilliant game design that they did this. Because, the game would be impossible if they didn't. You have to have a heads up. Otherwise, you would just be surprised all the time. And that would make for a terrible game experience. If every second something was jumping out at you, it'd be like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, but I feel like there's like 100 other ways to indicate that that there's a special infected up ahead.
How?
Okay, let's take boomers for example. I feel like they are like the most iconic of the special infected. Okay, so there's one up ahead. Maybe you see like gross stuff on the ground. Maybe one of your characters says, "Jesus, what's that smell?" Like things like that are in game. That's what I want. I want in game because there's no soundtrack to life. That's why I like good music in a game, but I don't want it to be part of the game because it's not. It's not realistic in any way. Because there wouldn't be a music cue if you were actually in that scenario.
The boomers could have a piano following them.
I guess that's possible.
I guess
they
just
could have eaten a keyboard.
Deep down, I don't care. I like that aspect that you get rewarded for paying attention. And the boomer is the most noticeable one. Some of them are real subtle.
That stealthy one. That, like, the one with the hood on?
Oh, the screeching one. Like the hunter?
Mm.
One of them is just like a two-note, like really high on a pitch, like doo-doo. That's it. That's all you get. So, they're not all noticeable as a boomer, but I appreciate that. I think it services the game, not detracts from it. And obviously that's a core disagreement between the two of us in it. But I appreciate that. I like that extra addition to it.
All right, we'll have to agree to disagree on that point. That's fine. Next point. So you've already explained what the special infected are.
Yep.
I don't like them. But it's not just in this game that I don't like them. I don't like special infected in any zombie game. And this brings me back to zombie canon, because if your explanation for this zombie apocalypse is like medical or biological in some way, like you might be able to work in an explanation for them that's like remotely plausible, assuming that zombies are plausible to begin with. Like suspension of disbelief on zombies aside, I had the same frustration with not finding them a worthwhile addition in State of Decay. I like State of Decay. The special zombies in that one I just found really obnoxious. I think zombies by themselves, as movies and comic books and TV have shown, zombies alone by themselves, when done properly, are incredibly dangerous. You don't need special infected. So when I see them, I feel like the game's being lazy in coming up with a challenge for you. I also understand that it's one thing to watch a movie for an hour and a half or, an episode of The Walking Dead for 45 minutes once a week. I get that. The amount of time you're spending with those zombies is much less. With a game like Left 4 Dead, you could be playing it for 10, 20, 100 hours. So they're trying to vary the experience. I understand the requirements of a video game, and they need to do something to vary what you're doing. But I never liked the special infected, because, especially in this one, because it's one thing if it was like a guy that's harder to kill, or visually he was different, or there was some aspect to him. But it's like they all feel to me like a zombie with a superpower, and that just comes across as like cheesy to me. Like, this one shoots its tongue at you and drags you over, and this one's really fat. And this one's like a gigantic Hulk who runs around like a lunatic. Like, they honestly feel like superheroes that got bit by zombies. They don't feel like an enhanced zombie. And I haven't put enough thought into it to come up with an alternative to them that varies the experience, stays more closer to the traditional zombie, and keeps the player engaged. Like, I don't have a good option, but I know I don't like special infected, and it's an observation I made before I even had played Left 4 Dead, because I had the same issue with State of Decay.
Have you played any of the Resident Evil games? It's not totally.
I'm familiar.
It's
with
not
them.
really relevant to the
I'm
point I'm
familiar
about to
with
make.
them.
I will just say that I respect that opinion. I don't think it's possible to make a video game without it. But in Resident Evil, let me just finish this one. In Resident Evil, they have essentially animals that are infected with the zombie virus.
Yeah, the dogs and stuff.
Right, the dogs, the frogs, all that.
Birds.
I mean, all those ridiculous things. Do you possibly respect that as a way to get around this issue, where like zombies aren't dangerous, but they need something more than zombies?
I 100% have no problem with it in Resident Evil. I feel like it's worked into the story in a plausible way. Because, and specifically, and I wasn't even thinking Resident Evil when I said an explanation through like biological experimentation or a disease or whatever. But Resident Evil is a perfect example of that, because that's ultimately what is the trigger in Resident Evil. And so not only do you have your standard zombies, which, all right, they're not that difficult. Then you have your animals, the dogs. Are there any others you actually encounter?
Yeah, the lickers are supposed to be frogs.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they were like. I haven't played the game in forever, and any of them. I just assumed that they were like experimented on human beings of some sort. But that actually sounds a little goofy now. Frogs to those things seems like a little much.
Well, you think about it, they have like long tongues that jump out at you.
Yeah, I guess.
But
regardless. I guess they look a little too human to me, but whatever. Anyway, they vary the things you fight. Like the big guy. What's the big guy you fight in that one?
The Nemesis?
Yeah, Nemesis.
They have a different thing. Tyrants. They're tyrant versions or whatever.
Those all, because I know the game's like backed by the Umbrella Corporation, and it's all about secret experimentation and biological warfare and all that crap. Like it all works into the story. So I have no problem with it. And I guess maybe that's my problem with Left 4 Dead, is there was no explanation for the special infected that seemed plausible. Like why are they special infected as opposed to just regular zombies? Where's the explanation? Why are they different? And why do they have these extra powers?
Well, so I guess
I know you kind of explained some of it. Like the jockeys were like old men.
Well, that's the thing. Like I like. There is no excuse for why they're the ones that are different, than like regular dudes. But I do enjoy that each one has a very like subtle backstory. Some of them are kind of
creepy,
creepy or crass even. Like the Spitter, she's obviously like a club girl. Like you can see like her thong sticking out the back.
Oh.
And like when you put two and two together.
Yeah.
Or the Charger, like his right hand is super big, and he's just like this. Like dumb country, like his origins are obviously like dumb country hick. I enjoy that. Like the boomer looks like a guy who he looks exactly like that guy from that World of Warcraft episode of South Park.
Okay.
So I like the indirect storytelling from the Special Infected, but I don't know why they're special. Like there's nothing.
So those explanations are not. Those aren't real explanations. Those are funny, subtle explanations. Like
Right.
being a club girl doesn't mean you're going to become a super zombie. It means you're going to be a zombie that's dressed like a hoe. That's what that means. If I guess I want this game to either be realistic and dark and a 100% serious and horrible, or I want it to be like Borderlands and be funny and goofy. Like pick one. And they ride the fence, and I personally, I know you love this game. I don't feel like they do either side of that justice by riding the middle. Because there's moments where it takes me out of the game because it's doing something silly or being funny, like where that band bus is on fire and they go by or whatever you were telling me.
Yeah.
About. Like that's goofy, like and the name of the band and all that stuff. Like it's all funny and like that takes me out of the game because if you're in a zombie apocalypse, it's gonna suck so bad. You are not gonna be laughing anymore. There is no more humor left in the world.
I mean, first off, I think the game is generally more funny than you gave it credit for, but you don't. This is a larger point that I was probably going to try to make at the end. This game only gets good through extreme repetition. At first, it seems pretty basic. There's not a huge variety in what happens, stuff like that. You only start to respect the very subtle differences once you stop paying attention to the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you're good enough and experienced enough to pay attention to the extra.
Right. So like you run through every campaign once, and you assume that it's the same every time, but it's not. The game has a complex AI director who caters the experience to what's happening. And I found this out today, it even plays different music for each person based on their situation, which I found really interesting. Like if you're in really dire straits, like it'll play a certain music for you. Or if you've had a stressful campaign up until that point.
You mean as opposed to what you're hearing?
Yeah. So like you're getting your music catered to you, and I'm getting my music catered to me based on the experience that I'm having. If I've been down 2 or 3 times and I'm having a stressed experience, it'll play more stressful music for me.
Yeah, that's fine. That sounds good.
Which is interesting. But the thing is, like, if you just play it the one time, you're never going to realize that. You're just going to assume that that's the music that plays when you get to this part of the level, so on and so forth. All the story is told not through cutscenes or anything. It's told through dialogue. It's told through things written on walls, just subtle things like the band that we were talking about, the Midnight Riders. There's Midnight Riders stuff throughout the entire game. So when you get to that stage where you get to set off the Midnight Rider thing, it's like, oh, this is that band that I keep seeing things for. And that's fun. Later in the jukebox, there's a Midnight Rider song in there. Like, that's just... There is a subtle world being built for you, but you have to be able to ignore the zombies to see any of it.
So we've established that you like that aspect of it.
Yes.
Do you like it? If somebody told you when you bought this game, whether you initially liked it or not, you would only fully appreciate it after you had essentially exhausted your experience with it. They told you that at the beginning. Did you know that at the beginning, or did?
No, okay. I had no idea.
Do you like that component of the game for what it is, or do you feel like you've earned it? Because, let me take another before you answer. So this is a video game. What if somebody told you you would not fully appreciate a movie until you had watched it 10 times. And after, like, the first 2 times, you're like, I don't really like this movie that much. But somebody told you, you got to watch it 10 times before you start picking up on the nuances. Wouldn't you be kind of, like, a little annoyed that it takes 10 watches to really appreciate it?
I don't know.
Like, wouldn't you would you possibly think that if they had done a better job, you would have enjoyed it the first time?
When this game came out, it came out in 2009, I would say yes, that would annoy me. If somebody said, Greg, you have to play 150 hours of Left 4 Dead 2 before you even start to figure out the story going on, I'd be like, oh, that sounds awful. However, this game has shown me that not only do I like that, but that is the common thread between all the games that I really do like. I like games that are really subtle in their storytelling. I mean, we've used this a million times. Fez, Shadow of the Colossus, like those type of games, that is my favorite gaming experience now. I like games that are like, there's a story here if you want to find it, I guess. And even games that I don't play, like I think the best example of people that just love this game is Dark Souls. Are you familiar with Dark Souls?
Mm-mm.
It's a third-person medieval type game, which obviously is why you've never heard of it. It is notorious for being impossibly hard.
Oh, that sounds appealing.
Yeah, I know. And most people laud it as a throwback to older games. I've played it. It's a good game.
Was this made in Poland?
No, The Witcher is probably
Oh,
what you're
that's something.
thinking of.
All right, keep going. Sorry.
Now, Dark Souls is a game that it's too hard for me. It's a little frustrating. However, just like all this other stuff, there's a story in it, but it's barely there. It's hinted at. It's like, this enemy over here, this body over here has this crest on it. That's why he's there. It's insane. I watch YouTube videos on just the subtle backstory of Dark Souls. Like, I don't have the patience to play the game, but I really want to know those like subtle backstory clues that are given throughout the game. So, no, when Left 4 Dead 2 came out, you said, Greg, you got to play this game 150 hours over. Like, no, I don't want that. But now, if you said, Greg, you got to watch this movie 10 times before you'd appreciate it, I'd be down for that.
That's acceptable. Like I feel like that's either something somebody's on board with and willing to do because they trust the person telling them that, or it's just not something they're on board with. And I think the alternative way to do the same thing is sort of the Mass Effect route, where there is a ton of story there. If you, I mean, all the backstory, all the history, all the stuff on the different species, and essentially everything you would extract from the Mass Effect wiki, it's in those games. To some degree, Halo as well, but not quite. I mean, you have the terminals, but there's not a lot of stuff in Halo to pick up and read, and you're going to get something new from it. It's mostly run here and shoot things. But in Mass Effect, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, like, you'll get new things added to your, whatever, your like, menu encyclopedia thing. You can go read about it. They had some of that in Dead Space. You know, if you want to read the extra content, you can, or you can keep moving. It doesn't matter one way or the other. If you want to get a more in-depth experience, you can take that time. Or you keep on running. It's up to you. I guess I prefer that execution because it leaves the choice up to me how involved I want to get. And I play a game for 150 hours. What if ultimately I don't like the story? Then I've invested so much time. Whereas if I start reading all that extra crap in Dead Space or Mass Effect, and ultimately I decide I'm really just not that interested in reading it, I can just skip it. I can just go on, you know? And then I get the exact amount of story I want, and I'm happy.
And I mean, it has to be said, I enjoyed this game enough to get to that all that other stuff that I love about this game. Like, I loved this game. I like this game a lot. You know, just from playing, I would have given it like an 8 out of 10, whatever. And because I played it so much, I ran into all that other stuff. I ran into the story. I ran into all the characters having a unique personality. It's really fun to be around. And that's the stuff that bumps it up for me, to a 10 out of 10.
They could have done it my way, though.
Yeah.
Or they could have done it both ways.
Right.
They could have had, like, diary pages that were spread out, or, something,
I suppose. I mean, the game is a little too fast-paced to be hunting for diary pages, because then, once again, we would encounter the same issue. You would have to get good enough with the game to not have to worry about the game to go hunt for pages and stuff.
Well, it could have been like every safe room you get to, you're rewarded with like journal entries or something.
That could have worked.
Something like that.
And they do have stuff sprawled on the walls for you to read, and there is a storyline, like some stuff written on walls of safe houses will apply later and stuff. Like they connect. Like, have you seen these people? And then later you'll be like, hey, we're here. Stuff like that.
Like I guess in some ways I wish it wasn't quite so subtle. Like Portal 1, it's not really, it's subtle, but it's not. Like they have all this stuff scrolled on the walls inside the place. It's like you get the story. It's pretty direct.
Yeah.
But they do it in like a passive way. It's not like, here's a cutscene, watch what happened. It's, if you take the time to read the graffiti on the wall, you'll get some story from that.
Right.
And I guess as a new player to this series, I didn't get a lot of that. And I think some of that would have been, or like little moments, and you would get those sometimes. Like I remember one of the, there was a camping spot where, it looked like somebody had been camping there and then got attacked, and like they left supplies behind. I like that. That's world building to me. I enjoyed that. I want more of that. So that's my point on whichever point that was.
That was a tangent.
Yeah, that was a super tangent. That was a tangent off of the special effect. That was a long ways.
That was something.
So we sort of touched on this a little bit. Aiming seems way too easy. To hit a zombie is easy. Maybe there's a way to like turn that off. I don't know if that's an option, but
I don't know.
It's like you're shooting from the hip. It's like bam, 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 and you're hitting guys, and then they crumple over. Like it doesn't matter really where you hit them. You mentioned the realism mode, so that would have helped. I would have appreciated the game more at that point. So immediately when we started playing, you told me, Dan, turn the subtitles on. You'll understand what the people are saying. You'll get more out of the game. And you're right. I did. But I don't feel like I shouldn't have to do that.
Right.
I feel like the game needs to work that stuff in more directly, because you simply cannot hear what the guys are saying in the middle of a gunfight with zombies while somebody's running off their mouth making a joke or saying something that sort of relates to their personality and backstory.
Yeah. This might have been a little too next level for your first run through the game. It's just a trick that we do, like the people that I played all those hours with, because in the end it makes the game, it just gives you a slight edge,
No, I realize that.
And when you're playing the competitive multiplayer, you need every edge you can get. So, at no point, it's not like we read that in a guide. It was just something that we figured out on our own. And for story, it makes it a little easier because you can read what people are saying. So it's like, oh, Ellis is saying something funny. And I especially like that with Ellis, because Ellis starts off on these long stories, and then a lot of times people cut him off, be like, Ellis, this isn't the time. But when you have the subtitles on, you actually get to read the whole story, even what isn't cut off, which I always find really funny, because the rest of the story is usually hysterical.
Like, I like that, but I guess you don't have subtitles in life.
I know. But the real reason we put the subtitles on is because those audio cues I was talking about, like the boomer and stuff, you can't always hear them. In the subtitles, in parentheses, it'll say boomer gurgle or spitter howl, or hunter howl. So even before you hear or see the special infected coming, your subtitles will tell you that they're around.
No, I get that, and it's a clever way to deal with a problem in the game, and I'm not opposed to it from that sense. Like, working around it, it's fine, but I don't feel like I should have to do it.
And I don't know if you do have to. That was us cheesing the game and like trying to next level our opponents.
But like all this stuff, like I would, at no point do I ever recall one of the characters saying something because I am so focused on the mission and the zombies and working together. Like I don't hear them say it, but I would sometimes see it on the screen.
Right.
And maybe it's because I just haven't played enough. I'm not as comfortable in my Left 4 Dead 2 skin to like sort of zone out and pay more attention to these characters. Maybe that's simply what it is.
And the other, it should just be mentioned, before you go home and do this, it's a warning. There is a big detriment to it in that sometimes the subtitles will take up a very large chunk of your screen.
And you can't, and like you're like trying to look around them, and that's not going to work.
It's not going to work, and they don't go away fast.
Yeah.
But that is my pro tip for Left 4 Dead if you're playing it. Turn on the subtitles.
Okay, so some of these other points, these are going to sort of start to distance themselves a little bit from being a critique of the game to being a little bit more of the game that I want. So we can go through these kind of quickly. It's fine. Take these for what you will. They sort of apply to this, but not entirely. There's 4 characters in the game. They're all uniquely different, but I didn't care about them at all. Perhaps if I played for 100 hours after hearing them ramble on about their stories, I would care a little bit more.
And that's what's so interesting is because I have like a very deep connection with these characters. Like to me, each one has a personality. I have one I like to be. I love to be Ellis. They play identical. But if somebody takes Ellis, I get pissed. I mean, there's no reason for it. I just love being that character. Ty was always Nick. It's just how it works. He was always that guy. I was always Ellis.
The reason that the game feels like 4 people that don't know each other, but I feel like they only got to this point because they do. And because they did know each other enough to get to this point, they do care about each other. But I don't care about them. That's my problem. I'm not invested in them.
Right.
But I feel like they're invested in them.
Classic show don't tell.
But it's not getting to me.
Right.
I mean, I've played games. I've played single-player games where I got a bunch of CPU characters with me. I've mentioned before, maybe not on this podcast, but to you, Star Wars
Republic Commando.
Yeah, Republic Commando. I was deeply invested in those characters. You ended up having to leave one of them behind, and it really upset me. You were upset about a horse. So, I mean, you can get drawn into caring about these characters. These, I just don't give a crap about them. I feel like one way to maybe get me a little bit more invested was to add some slightly more RPG elements to the game. If I could have customized my character, I think I, at the very least, would have cared more about the experience. Like, me, this is me, like, I'm invested in this guy. That would have helped a little bit.
I feel like customizing a character in first person is a little silly. If it was a third-person shooter, I kind of get it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about Mass Effect, but that's third person. I get it. And, like, the different suits you can have in Dead Space, it does make more sense.
Yeah.
It would have been something I guess I would have liked, or it would have been fun. Or if or as I was mentioning to you, I don't actually have it on the list, but if there was going back to kind of comparing it to Mass Effect, which is ridiculous, I realize when I say that out loud, but if there was like a pool of like 10 people that I could pick from, kind of like your party, your ultimate, your pool of people for Mass Effect, in Left 4 Dead, if I could have picked 3 of them to accompany me, and
that's an interesting point.
That like I wouldn't necessarily pick the 3 that accompany you in this game.
Right.
And that like when I played Mass Effect, I almost always, not all the time, but I almost always picked Garrus and Tali. I liked them. They were in the first game with me through the whole way, and I enjoyed having them as my companions. I think it would have been interesting if the different characters had different strengths and weaknesses, and therefore supplemented your experience. And it would have made me appreciate them as people. Like Tali was good with tech stuff, and Garrus was a good sniper. Those are useful skills. That would have been cool to be able to customize your script. They all play exactly the same, and they all essentially do the same thing. They just look different.
I was actually thinking about that today. I think this game might have benefited from minor, very minor RPG elements. Even to the maybe not even RPG elements, but just how if maybe each character had a skill. Like Coach is a big dude, maybe if he could like move stuff out of the way. If Rochelle's a smaller girl, maybe she could get into tight places and do something.
And then you learn to rely on that person.
Right. If each player had a role, and don't revolve a level around that, but provide opportunities to use those abilities. Be like, don't be like, all right, you can't go past it unless Coach is here.
Yeah.
But it's like, look, guys, I know there's like a weapon stash over here. We got Coach with us. Let's see if we can push this car out.
Or there's a vent, and you can sneak her through, or something like that.
So I feel like maybe, I mean, I don't like to mess with this formula too much, but perhaps light abilities would have been a benefit.
And that ties in with what I had here on my list was like, and speaking of RPG elements, like over the course of the game, getting faster, stronger, better aim, melee. But I think your point, I think that's a perfect way to do it. And I would have been happy with that. It would have made me appreciate what that person brings to the table. And people are not identical, especially the group of 4 that are in this game. You have a big black guy and you have a little black woman. You've got 2 white dudes. Wait, is the one guy Asian or is he white?
No, they're both white.
Okay. You have a mix of people. And
right.
It would have been perfectly appropriate for them to bring unique things to the table.
Right. Like Ellis is a mechanic. You could have had like, him work fix a garage door, make it work or something. You know what I mean? Like there could have just been small benefits to having that teammate alive at a certain point.
And I think it would have been fun to be like, oh hey Greg, there's a vent over here. Well, come over here so you can like go through this. Like as a team player element, like I can look out for these things even if I can't do them myself. I can call on you to help me and assist me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would have benefited the game. The game. I'm demoting the game to a 9.8. I'm just kidding. 9.9.
Okay. My stuff gets a little jumbled here at the end, but we'll sort of go through some of these points. So the game feels very video gamey to me. Sometimes, which sort of ties into world building. It sort of doesn't, because the world building makes a game immersive when you do it really well. Even if you're in a level, like a quote-unquote level, and like it's clearly like designed. I mean, I know it's all designed, but if you have a really truly immersive experience, you forget that it is. I typically did not forget that in this. I did sometimes. Like there were moments which I thought were really well done and creative. I liked the level where you go through it and then basically on your way back, there's a huge rainstorm and it floods. That's a creative reuse of the level. It fits the story. Like that's well done. There's one part. I think it's in that. I think it's in the Bayou level where you go into like a crashed airplane.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that airplane just felt good.
Yeah.
That area, like I liked it. It had a good feeling to it. But a lot of the game felt video gamey to me, and often that was because the map was so restricted and where you could go, and to the point where I felt like sometimes I was kind of on rails.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a corridor shooter through a lot of the game.
There's just so little freedom that I just felt like I just need to mow down everybody in front of me to move forward, and I would have appreciated like larger maps that let me have choices. Like I can go left, I can go right, I can be stealthy, I can try and work my way around the edges. I can, if I know there's a problem here, I'll try and go around it. Like there's never that option. And they could have done that, and I don't think it would have messed with the core of the game.
I think it would have, but you don't have the knowledge base to understand why. Yeah, I'm sorry. The way the multiplayer functions, it would be virtually impossible for the special infected to ever win if they were more open world. The only way that the zombie side of the multiplayer wins is basically when you...
Are you talking about multiplayer, or are you talking about player versus environment? Because I'm talking about player versus environment.
No,
the campaign.
I'm talking about the competitive multiplayer, because you play the same levels.
Okay.
you only can ever win when you get them into like basically a confined area.
Yeah, but if it's like if it's a corridor, you have there's no options.
You would never be able to track everyone down if they were just all over the place. Because the special infected spawn just like opposing, and then they move towards them. I think that it would destroy the competitive multiplayer if the levels were more open. You need to know where the humans are going to go next so that you can plan an attack, and it needs to always be essentially the same thing.
That sounds goofy to me. I'm sorry. Like that doesn't sound that. I mean, so assume that you even have the intelligence to plan as a zombie, which realistically you don't. So that's kind of goofy to start with. But we'll set that aside. Suspension of disbelief. That's not even remotely a plausible scenario. In most situations, you're not stuck in essentially a long corridor, and you have to get past the thing in the middle. You have the world is an open world. You can go anywhere.
Let's play a game.
Okay.
So, if this were not a zombie game, if you were fighting, I don't know, something stupid, dogs. Well, just for an example, dogs. And then you were opposed against an elite force of Army Rangers who had different, like one had a taser, one had like a foam he could cover you in so it was hard to move, so on and so forth. Would you be more okay with that game if it played in every other way as like Left 4 Dead does? Like, how much is the zombie setting of this game a detriment to you?
Honestly, honestly I feel like would fit better is if this was a zombie game with regular zombies, and the special infected weren't special infected. They were like marauders who were trying to get me, who had foam spray and body armor and other crap.
Right.
That would fit in better, and I would, I can understand them being tactical and trying to plan, and it would make sense because you live in that world now.
So, I mean, a core issue for you with this game is that it doesn't seem plausible in its own stupid zombie way.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that gets to my point of it sits on the fence because Borderlands is ridiculous, but I'm fine with it because I understand the parameters of that world. It's a goofy, silly world. It's not meant to be taken seriously. Like if Grand Theft Auto was like that, I would hate it.
Yeah, for sure.
And this game doesn't need to be Grand Theft Auto. I know they're different. It's not that. But I like the choice and the freedom to go anywhere and do anything. And so it's a world. The cops are chasing me. I can go hide in a railroad tunnel if I want. I can do anything. I can get a boat. I can go get in a submarine and go underwater. I can do whatever I want to deal with the problems I'm encountering in that world. This game doesn't let me. I don't have enough freedom to do the things I want to do sometimes.
Yeah, I understand your perspective, and I have a counterpoint, but I'd actually like to save it to the end.
Okay, that's fine. Let's see. Talked about that one. Okay, so I guess the other points I have in some way or another been covered. So I'll end with this final point since we just mentioned GTA. So I know it would be totally separate from this, but I would absolutely love either a GTA-style zombie game or a DLC or expansion or whatever for GTA 5 that involved zombies, because it would work so perfectly. Especially in GTA 5, you have the military base, you have the research facility, you have a huge world, tons of people, all sorts of different environments. Like you could explore like nearly every aspect of zombie canon with a world like that. And they've already built the environment. All you have to do is build, the character models and all that stuff.
There's some zombies in it.
And
and they've done it in the past. They did the Undead Nightmare version of Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
So, do it.
Yeah, and it almost feels like a no-brainer. Like when I thought about that earlier today, I was like, oh my god, how have they not done this before for Grand Theft Auto? I mean, the game's already rated mature.
Yeah, do it.
I mean, for God's sakes, what have you got to lose? People love zombies.
This is a total aside. I started playing Red Dead Redemption again the other day. Still don't like the game, but it is gorgeous. I don't know if I've ever played such a beautiful game. I can't even describe how beautiful that game is.
That game's world building is phenomenal.
It's unbelievable. I just can't even begin to appreciate how wonderful it is.
That's the thing. Like, I get sucked in because of that. Every like couple months, I'll pick it up and I'll play it for like a day and make like, 0.5% worth of progress in it. And it's just so much fun to just ride around and get into trouble and just like be an outlaw.
I was such a jerk. I lassoed this dude, just a total dude. And I dragged him around for a while, and then I threw him on my horse, and then I rode him the entire length of the map, and then when I finally got to a town, I shot him. And the whole time he was like, what did I do to deserve this? I just want to turn around and be like, nothing.
Yeah, like everything about that game, it's like I don't remember what year it is, like 1890 or something, right? Or 1880.
Yeah, it's right. I think it's right after the turn of the century because there are automobiles in it. A few, I believe.
I don't remember that, but maybe they're later in the game. Well, it also jumps ahead.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Spoilers, but I mean, it jumps ahead with his kid.
I haven't even gotten that far.
Yeah, I haven't gone that far either. I'm barely. I'm into Mexico. But
I'm into Mexico.
I've done little there except explore. Like I've explored everything, but done little.
I'm almost exactly in the same place because I don't care about that game at all, other than I want to see some pretty things sometimes.
Yeah, like I just want to live in that world. Like I just want to live in that world and then be able to turn it off so I don't have to deal with
all right, I'm done.
Yeah, like it's like, oh yeah, actually the Old West sucked.
Yeah.
Like I'm done. But like I don't care. That's the problem. I don't care about the story. That's often my problem with GTA 5. Although, fun fact about GTA, this isn't a fun fact. This is a fun. It's 100% not a fun fact. I started playing GTA 5 again.
Yeah.
I started getting into the missions and stuff. Like,
Good time?
When did that game come out?
A while ago.
Yeah.
A year.
I played as Franklin for like 3 missions, explored everything in the game, and then I started playing missions again, and now I've unlocked the second dude.
Michael?
Yeah.
I like Michael.
I love Michael. That mission where you're going after the boat. I laughed out loud.
That's a great one.
I love him. I love the interplay between the two.
Wait till you get the third dude. He is
he's
ridiculous.
He's ridiculous.
He's ridiculous.
I put the game down. You know what's going to happen? Destiny's out next Tuesday, and then
There
I'll
goes
never
your
play
life.
GTA 5.
I'm not gonna see you. You're going to emerge from your cave like 8 months from now. Have this long ass beard.
I'll be like that butterfly I took care of. I'm going to come out as like a whole nother creature.
We got to get back on point.
We do.
Do you have any final thoughts before I start talking about all of my points?
I recognize that I don't have a ton of experience with this game, and some of my points are nitpicky. I think some are totally founded. I think I'm an experienced enough gamer to know when I don't like something and when I think there are flaws. It's entirely possible if I had played this game more, or if I had played it when you got it and we were at the same level of experience with this game, that it would have been totally different. But there's so many things, and I noticed a lot of these quickly, that I didn't like about this game. And I realize I'm in the minority, and that happens sometimes. Like, everybody loves Avatar. I think it's the worst movie on earth. Sometimes I'm just going to be in the minority, and that's fine. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. It's an opinion thing. This game doesn't do it for me.
Right, and I'm the same way with Half-Life 2. That game does nothing for me. And, it's weird because I love Left 4 Dead so much. I love Portal so much. They're all made by Valve. They're all made with the same source engine and stuff. What is about Half-Life 2 that doesn't get me? I don't know. I cannot play that game. I hate it.
It's fine. I don't like it nor dislike it. I wasn't big on the first one, but I played through all the second one. I guess I just don't really care.
I don't care either. I don't know. And Half-Life's another really interesting where I am like super into the story. Like I want to know who the G-Man is. I want to know like what Gordon's thing is. I want to know all that stuff.
But the game,
I just don't want to play it.
Yeah, like the gravity gun was kind of cool,
I guess.
but
Portal gun's better.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like Portal is 1,000 times more fun.
Right.
And when the hell are they going to do a crossover, for God's sakes?
Rumor has it.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard rumors.
the ship that's missing in Portal 2 is supposed to be the ship that, I want to say Isaac Clarke, it's not, Gordon Freeman is trying to get to in Halo 3.
Halo 3?
Whatever. Half-Life 3. It was actually supposed to be Half-Life 2 Episode 3, but that
Yeah,
never
but
happened.
they stopped doing those.
That is such a... I don't know what's going on with Valve. I don't know what's wrong with them. How hard is it to make a game?
Seriously.
Just make a game.
Everything's built.
I don't even want to play your game, and I'm starting to get frustrated this game is not happening yet.
Yeah. Like, if I had to wait, like, how many years ago was the last episode for Half-Life 2?
It was when the Orange Box came out.
I don't remember when
So
that
when
was.
Portal 1 came out.
How many, like, 5 years?
2008?
Okay.
Maybe. It might have even been before that. I'll look it up.
If I had to wait that long for, like, a new Halo, and I thought I was being, like, strung along, and I thought it was going to come out eventually, and, like, I just kept getting, like, rumors and nonsense, like, I would get so angry.
The Orange Box came out in 2007. That was 7 years ago, December 2007.
And that's when the last
7 years
episode
ago.
came out?
That was the last time we played anything Half-Life related. That's insane. 7 years? I mean, my theory, you know about all these Steam boxes coming out? So Steam is trying to do, or Valve is trying to essentially make a computer that will double as an accessible console. And there's affordable versions of it, you know, in the $300 to $500 range, but they're still highly customizable. There's expensive ones too, but you basically can just play whatever you want on it. You know, it's like a high-end PC for an affordable price that you hook up to your television. They've been dangling the carrots for a while. They've been leaking out some like, hey, here's a Steam Box prototype. Here's a Steam Box prototype. Here's our really stupid-looking controller.
It's like a cross between a computer and a console.
And a console. I think when they officially like make these Steam Box unveiling, launch, whatever,
They'll launch it with.
I think Half-Life 3 has to come out with it. Otherwise, there is just no reason other than total mismanagement of a brand.
Honestly, I was just about to say that. Like, that is such a waste. They could have been up to like Half-Life 6 by now.
They've made 2 Portals. They've made 2 Left 4 Deads. They've made Team Fortress 2. They made all of Dota 2, and still no Half-Life. That's too much.
It makes no sense. It doesn't make sense.
It makes no sense to me. While we're on the topic of Valve and the Source Engine, Half-Life 2 uses the Source Engine, and pretty much every game we've played and talked about recently, the Left 4 Dead, Portals, Half-Life, they all use Source Engine. What do you think? What do you think of the graphics in this game?
Well, this game 2009, right? So it's a little bit older. Honestly, I really was not impressed.
Me too. There's a lot of good lighting effects in this game, but the actual graphics and everything in the Source Engine, Portal included, Portal's one of my favorite games ever, it always looks way too blocky to me. Like, they don't do round edges in any Source game.
I thought Half-Life 2, especially the episodes, because like the natural environments look so good.
But do they?
I was blown away at the time. I think it was the first episode. You're on like this sort of ocean cliffside thing. One of them starts at that. There's 2 episodes out.
There's 2 episodes, yeah.
I don't remember which one of them it is, but I'm pretty sure one of those starts on like an ocean cliffside thing, and it looks breathtaking. It looks good. And I guess I've never had an issue with the Portals.
I always feel like they look like PC games to me, which might sound weird.
They feel really like polygon-y.
They feel very blocky. Yeah, like it never feels realistic to me. In Left 4 Dead included.
This one, I mean, and it could just be an age thing at this point because I'm used to I've been playing games now for years that are better than that graphically.
Right.
So it could just be an unfair criticism because it's like, really, we should be comparing it to like games of the same era.
Yeah, but BioShock came out, I think, in the same year.
That's a good-looking game.
And that game looked awesome.
Yeah.
Although that's done in the Unreal Engine, which I have the exact opposite of problem with. I think all Unreal games look like big bubbles. Like it's too roundy.
Yeah. It's like you can't get anything in the middle.
Right. But Frostbite does a good job. That's kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Or that Dead Space 2 engine, whatever that was. They should use that for everything. So yeah, the graphics don't do much for me in this game. I like the feel of the game. There's like a really good atmosphere. Like when you're in New Orleans at the end, there's sort of this like warm haze in the air. I really appreciate that. Like I like the tone of the game. But the graphics themselves, like the actual blocks of the game, don't do much for me.
Especially the Bayou level.
Yeah, that
Looks
level's awful.
so bad. And it does that engine doesn't do plants very well. So like all the bushes and the trees and stuff you're walking through, it looks like garbage.
Yeah, it does. That
and,
level,
like distractingly so.
looks awful.
And the ground looks polygony, and like I'm like, this doesn't feel real to me at all.
So let me just talk about the competitive multiplayer a little bit.
Okay. You also had some you mentioned you had some follow-up points you wanted to save to the end. Should you do those now, post my points, and save the multiplayer as the final component?
It would be better if I remembered what it was.
Okay.
I think I'm going to talk about it just through here.
Okay.
So the competitive multiplayer is realistically sort of the meat and potatoes of this game. However, we never really got to it because it's a very overwhelming experience. The way,
and frankly, we didn't have a ton of time.
well, that's true too.
Because I mean, we plan ahead for these podcasts, but I didn't have the game, so then I had to get it. Then we had to play it, and we didn't have a huge queue built up of episodes to talk about, so this was coming up relatively quickly.
Right.
So that's why we didn't get to it. We sort of ran out of time.
So the way the multiplayer works, well, the way the single player works is that you go through the level, and if everybody dies, you go back to the beginning of that act. The way the competitive multiplayer works is that you get points for how far into the level you make it. So, I remember my point, by the way, what I was going to say. That's not important, though. I'm going to write it down this time. I don't know what that means. So, you are competing against, it's 4 people competing against 4 special infected. And the special infected do what they can to try and incapacitate all 4 people. And then they get points, and then only the humans get points for how far they made it in. Very, very rarely do all 4 humans make it all the way to the next safe house. So the game has a different pace to it than when we played. So you only get one shot at it, and then you switch. So the 4 special infected will start out as special infected, 4 humans. The humans will get as far as they can. Then when the special infected stop them all, the special infected become the 4 humans, and then they run the maze. This is where familiarity with the level really comes into play, because you have to know good choke points, good parts where they're likely to get separated, because the whole key is to get them separated. Once one of them becomes separated, all 4 special infected can sort of pounce that one person and down them real quick, and then move on to the rest of the group. And the game gets harder with less people. It is kind of frenetic, and it's a ton of fun, and it requires a lot of planning. If you have a crappy team, you're not going to get far at all.
I assume that, like, realistically, it doesn't work that well when you're teamed up with strangers.
It's not bad, but if they don't have a mic, you can't play with them. It is just that simple. I don't remember why, but the matchmaking in this game takes a very long time. Even when it was brand new, it would take between 5 and 10 minutes to get a full party of 8. But even though it took forever to get the party, if somebody came into that queue and they didn't have that little mic icon, we booted them. Because it is impossible to play without a microphone. You need to be able to say, I'm pounced. I got a spitter over here.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell that just from playing the single player, or playing the campaign.
Right. And the special infected need to a lot of the special infected get better when you can combine them. So like, if I'm a spitter and you're a jockey, I can spit on the ground, you can jockey onto a dude, and then steer him towards my spit.
Yeah.
So it's important to communicate at all times on both sides of the thing. It is impossible to do without a mic. What I like so much about this game, this is a bolder point than just the multiplayer. It creates a completely unique multiplayer experience. There is no other game like this. Can you think of one?
No.
And I think you kept getting caught up on the setting, and because of that, and there are other issues. I'm not discounting any point you made. There were other issues too, but I would like this game if you took out everything. If it was just gray walls and you virtually played into like a basement, like a cement basement. Everything looked the same and it was just a maze. I would love this game. Because I love the cooperative aspect. You cannot succeed in this game without your teammates. You will get smoked and downed automatically, and that's it. That's the end of the game. You need somebody to come over and save you.
I don't disagree with you. And I commend them for making a game where teamwork is imperative. Like I have no issue with that at all. That was never a complaint, and they do a good job of it. I mean, even when the four of us played, I mean, it turned into a debacle, but that's not the game. That wasn't the game's fault. And I could see how critical it was to work together and communicate.
Right. And I always applaud things, even if I don't like them. I always applaud things for being 100% unique. I had a conversation with some people earlier this week about the band The Police, which I don't totally love. I don't dislike them either, but when you hear a Police song come on the air, that's a Police song. There was never a band that sounded like The Police before The Police, and there has never been a band that sounded like The Police since The Police. So whether I like them or dislike them, I have to commend them for doing something totally unique that has never been replicated. So if you took the zombies out of this game and just made it like a maze running game, if you just called it The Maze, and you had a bunch of dudes trying to stop a bunch of other dudes from getting to the middle of the maze, it would probably be one of my favorite games of all time. I love this game for what it is, because it is a genuinely unique experience that I cannot replicate through anything else. I think those are mostly my points that I wanted to make. So to me, the fact that it feels, this is what I wanted to harken back to your level design critique. I like the fact that this feels like a video game, and the fact that it feels sort of like you're running that maze doesn't bother me. I don't mind that you're being forced through here, because I think it's necessary to create that experience that I think this game does so well.
I think ultimately my main thesis is that the game needs to either be serious or it needs to be funny. For me to appreciate it, I need it to be one or the other. Because when you confuse the two, it distracts me. I honestly, like, Borderlands is very video gamey sometimes. But I'm okay with it, because it's a funny game. Like, it's very tongue-in-cheek, and I know that. And I can enjoy it because of that. This, I never really know what to make of it.
Yeah.
If it was like if they were trying to make an immersive, serious experience, like I can appreciate that side of it too. Like if they went 100% serious and no humor and dark and horrible, I can appreciate that side as well. Because I know what they're going for. But I don't know how you have both at the same time. It seems discombobulated.
I guess. I just happen to really like the humorous moments, so even if it doesn't tonally fit the situation, I don't care enough to discount that, you know. I also think the game is just generally funnier than you might give it credit for. But again, that's just familiarity with the product. I think. I mean, do you have any final thoughts, Dan? Because we have to wrap up. This is
like a 12-hour podcast.
This has actually become our longest podcast ever.
Ugh. That was a lot of talking about Left 4 Dead. Although I had a feeling that was going to happen. I didn't love this game. I didn't hate it. I felt like it could have been better. And so that's why I had so many kind of nitpicky frustration moments with it. Because some of these things would have drastically changed the game. Some, I think, would have just enhanced the current experience. I'd be up for theoretically playing the player versus player at some point. I may or may not get the third one if/when it ever comes out.
Well, let me ask you. Evolve is made by these people. Do you have any interest in Evolve?
Honestly, I don't.
Well, I will say
because it's
Evolve does incorporate a lot of stuff that you're interested in. I think there's like 10 characters for you to choose from. They each have a role, and then you go out and you hunt, the monster or whatever. So, I mean, to some regard, a lot of what you've asked for is something they've incorporated into their new game.
Mostly the reason Evolve doesn't appeal to me, potentially yet, is I don't necessarily know enough about it. I've seen like a couple of, I don't know if they were gameplay trailers or whatever they were like to kind of like, hey, this is what our game is. And it sounded like it would get repetitive real quick. Like, I know the experience would be different every time because it's multiplayer and you're fighting different people and stuff, but like it sounded like it was one large environment and you've got your 4 people versus your 1 monster, and it just immediately that just sounded like that's going to get old quickly. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be a more dynamic experience than I'm giving it credit for. I don't know. And honestly, I don't know a ton about it. I didn't know a ton about Destiny before it came out with the beta, and I thought that looked dumb too. Because I had seen like one trailer for it. I'm like, this just looks like a bunch of goofballs chasing each other around with superpowers. It looked dumb. And then when I played it, I completely changed my opinion of it. So who knows? I could completely change my opinion on Evolve.
League of Legends has trained me that just because it's the same map doesn't mean it's not a fun game. League of Legends is not fun. It's miserable most of the time.
I played it like once. I tried.
But League of Legends is primarily played on the same map. There's a couple different ones, but it's a different game type. If you want to play the main game of it, it's always on the same map. And at first I was like, well, Ty, when do the other maps come out? I was like, no, dude, this is it. I said, that's really stupid. But you know what? It doesn't matter because what makes it interesting is who you're playing against, not where you're playing. So Evolve has multiple maps, but even if it did only have one, I'd be content with that. And that's, again, with Left 4 Dead, people had an issue with that. It's only 5 maps. There's DLC. That's not worth talking about. I don't mind playing the same maps over and over again because it's not where I'm playing, it's who I'm playing. So I'm very excited about Evolve. Honestly, I can't think of a game that I'm more excited about. Maybe Metal Gear Solid, whatever it is, 5. I'm really excited for that game.
That one almost looks kind of appealing to me too.
I love the Metal Gears. Yeah, you can.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's the one where he's on the horse in the desert, right?
Yeah.
And at the beginning, there's that like rainstorm. It's like in Cuba or something.
Yeah,
somewhere.
I have the Ground Zeroes if you ever want to try it.
I don't know what that is.
I'll tell you later.
Okay. I've completely lost like all track of how the Metal Gear series has expanded. So, after like Snake Eater, I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
What score would you give this game?
6.
That's actually a little high, I would think.
I don't hate the game. I don't dislike it. I just wanted it to be different.
Right.
I just wanted a different experience, and that's not necessarily the game's fault, but I can still want those things.
It's actually, I know this is going long, but I don't care. I listened to an episode of our old podcast. This is 8 years ago, maybe.
Wow, that long?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And in it, you were talking about your experience with Left 4 Dead 1.
I don't even remember playing that, ever.
And it's really interesting because almost everything you said here today, you said then.
Oh,
on
that's
that
great.
podcast.
At least I'm consistent.
At least you're consistent.
Well, you're going to tell me which one that is so I can listen to it.
I'll see if I can remember. So I appreciate that. That's really funny to me.
Some things never change. I did not remember playing the first one at all.
You played it at ties.
I thought I had never played it before at all. Huh, that's funny. What score would you give it, Greg?
I have to be real about this. I can't just give it an 11 like I want.
Oh, 9.8. Remember we...
I would give this game a 9 out of 10. I think it's unique. I think it's brilliant. I like playing it as a special effect just as much as I like playing as a human, sometimes more. I like the world building. I love the characters. However, there is a learning curve to this game that is almost insurmountable at this point, I think. Like, anybody still playing Left 4 Dead multiplayer is going to be like a hardcore pro at it, you know? So if I recommended this to whoever's listening, I don't even know if I could recommend the multiplayer. It's difficult. It's real difficult. And the game itself just requires a patience that I don't think everybody has. So, to get a 10 out of 10 in my book, it has to be a game that's accessible to everybody. Portal is a 10 out of 10 for me because I genuinely think anybody can pick up Portal and just play
Figure it out. Figure it out and enjoy it.
I was watching a YouTube video the other day that was describing, it was like the first 30 seconds of Portal and how it's the most perfect 30 seconds of video games of all time. How the information they give just from the second you start standing there and can look around, every bit of information about the game is given to you. It's like, this is how portals work. This is Gladys. You can jump here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can pick stuff up. In that one little box at the beginning of Portal, the entire game is explained to you. And that's next level genius game design. That to me is what needs to have a 10 out of 10. If an average gamer can't pick up a game and just play it, you can't give it a perfect score in my opinion.
After hearing myself make all these complaints tonight, I feel like I'm being a little unfair. I'm going to adjust my score. I'm going to give this game a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of time complaining about the things I don't like and didn't give it enough credit for the things it does well. It is a unique game. And the vast majority of the game is fine. Like, I didn't have problems with it. It's like all these little nitpicky things that irk me. And then it's like a scab and you got to pick at it. And it's like, I want this game to be slightly different. But at the end of the day, this game strikes me as a game in what will eventually be a long series, or there will at least be multiple more games. Oh, that was a stupid sentence. There will be multiple games in this series, I think, down the road, and then just the two. It would be a shame if there weren't. It strikes me as a series that would get increasingly refined as it goes. I could see myself being, very happy with Left 4 Dead, 4.
Yeah. And, I mean,
I feel like this game needs more games to fully mature.
It was so funny, going way back to what we first started talking about with that boycott, and the controversy with this game coming out so much faster was that everything was so much more refined from Left 4 Dead 1.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a completely different game. So, I mean, again, this has been 8 years, 7 years, whatever it is, since this game came out. 5 years.
5 years.
Where's Left 4 Dead 3?
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Just do something.
If you're not going to do it, then just outsource it to another company and let them do it.
Or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Although I will state in another episode, I praised Valve for taking their time with the game.
Well, there's taking your time and there's taking your time.
Right.
Like The Last Guardian, whatever it is.
Ugh. Don't.
It's too much. It's too long. Just put the game out. Just do it.
What I hate so much.
Or Duke Nukem.
What I hate so much about The Last Guardian, and you have to understand that every time I even read every time I read the words The Last Guardian, I get achy in my soul.
Lucy in the football. Or Charlie Brown in the football. Just
Sony, stop being such a jerk about it. If The Last Guardian is still happening, just give us a screenshot. Be like, look, everybody, here's a new screenshot you have never seen before. This game is happening. But instead they're like, oh, no, we're not canceling it. Okay, well, when's it coming out? We'll let you know. Just show me a screenshot. Give me a little bit of proof that that game is happening. We have to end this.
We have to
end this. Next podcast, we are going to do a game that we actually love. We're going to do Borderlands 2. I'm stoked about talking about Borderlands. I actually watched a video on the first Borderlands today, and it got me even more excited to talk about Borderlands 2.
I was really excited to talk about Borderlands.
Dan had a snafu.
Then we had a
thing.
A Boku snafu.
But that doesn't deter from
No,
the
it doesn't.
opinion of the
It's
game.
just
It was just a thing.
Very, very unfortunate.
If you would like a little bit of homework, go and play a game called Don't Move. I'm going to talk about it at the beginning of the next episode, and I think it pertains to Borderlands a lot.
And you can get it if you Google it. You'll get it on Newgrounds.com.
It's free.
It's free.
I paid $1 because I'm an idiot.
It's a web game. All I'm going to say, and they say in the description here, don't give up. That's all I'm going to say.
Or do give up.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right answer is yet. But check out Don't Move. We're going to discuss it next week. I am killagreg. You can find me at killagreg17.
I'm Dan. You can find me at the Polygon1.
You can find us at Player2, PLAYRTWO.
You can also find us at player2pressstart.com. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for bearing with us.
Well, I'm a half-done son of a gun with a suitcase full of pistols and money.